This is Come and See, a film made with real bullets, real explosions, real danger, and a level of psychological realism that the Soviet Union almost refused to allow. But this is not a video about a dangerous film set. This is a video about something far darker. Because behind the explosions, behind the screaming, behind the 14-year-old boy who aged decades in front of the camera, was a government terrified of one thing: the truth. A truth so violent, so politically risky, and so psychologically destabilizing that the USSR blocked this film for nearly 9 years. Today, we're not just looking at Come and See. We're looking at the war between a filmmaker, his own trauma, and an empire built on silence. This is the film the USSR did not want you to understand. Chapter 1. A war the USSR wanted you to forget. Belarus, 1943. A nation where 1 out of every 4 people died in Wabupu, where over 600 villages were burned alive, their inhabitants locked inside barns and set on fire. But for decades, the USSR shaped this story into something more patriotic. Heroic Red Army soldiers, glorious victories, triumphant liberation. What they did not want in their cinema: civilian massacres, collaborationist units, starvation, psychological breakdown, screaming children, and the total collapse of human morality. So when a filmmaker said, "I want to show how Belarus was actually destroyed," the government did not say, "Great idea." They said, "Absolutely not." And that filmmaker was Elem Klimov. Chapter 2. The director who escaped hell. Elem Klimov was not supposed to survive his childhood. Stalingrad, 1942. Bombs falling every hour, the river on fire, air choked with smoke, and his mother covering him and his baby brother with whatever fabric she could find as buildings collapsed in flames.
То есть она кипела еще и от бомб. Это река, значит, на нас ложились, значит, мамы наши, накрывали нас какими-то там...
Klimov later said, "As a young boy, I had been in hell." This wasn't a metaphor. This was his reality.
Дело в том, что я родом из Сталинграда. Мальчиком, естественно, я был и видел вот эти бомбежки.
But here's the twist no one expects. Klimov did not start his career with war films. He made comedies, satires, light-hearted films that the public adored. But every one of them was censored, delayed, interrogated, or banned by the Soviet authorities. Still, Klimov persisted. Until 1979. When tragedy changed everything. His wife, legendary filmmaker Larisa Shepitko, died in a car accident. He broke, emotionally, creatively, spiritually. He turned to alcohol. He isolated himself. He abandoned comedy forever. What remained was a single philosophy left behind by his wife: make every film as if it's your last. And so Klimov set his sights on something he had feared making his entire life: a film about Belarus, genocide, and trauma. A film so honest that the USSR repeatedly tried to stop it. Chapter 3. The writer who held back a nation's trauma. This is Ales Adamovich. In 1941, he was 13 years old, the same age as the protagonist in Come and See. Adamovich survived the Nazi occupation of Belarus. He witnessed the burning of villages, the slaughter of civilians, and the destruction of his homeland. After the war, he dedicated his life to recording the testimonies of survivors. He wrote Cotton, the book that would become the backbone of Come and See.
И вот эта повесть, хатынская повесть его, я ее прочел и увидел, что вот там это настолько вот выпукло, талантливо написано об этих временах, вот об этих временах оккупации, геноцида в Белоруссии.
But no director dared to adapt it. It was too brutal, too political, too honest. Adamovich refused all offers. There was only one person he trusted to adapt the horrors he had lived through: Elem Klimov. Together, they agreed. No heroism, no triumph, no propaganda, only the truth. And truth was exactly what Soviet censors feared. Chapter 4. The film Moscow tried to kill. For 8 years, Klimov's script was rejected. It was called too depressing, too graphic, dangerous, anti-Soviet. Officials told him, The Soviet audience does not need to see this. But then, a miracle. 1985, the 40th anniversary of Victory Day. The USSR needed a big patriotic movie to celebrate. They gambled that Klimov's film would glorify the victory. They made a mistake. What they approved was not a patriotic epic, but a psychological weapon. Chapter 5. The Boy Who Carried a Nation's Trauma. Alexei Kravchenko did not want to be an actor. He was only there to support a friend at an audition. But Klimov saw something in him: innocence, purity, and the capacity to be emotionally destroyed by what he'd witnessed. To prepare him, Klimov put the 14-year-old on a hunger diet. For days he drank nothing but water. He ran long distances to lose weight. They even brought in a psychotherapist to hypnotize him during the most traumatic scenes. It didn't work. Kravchenko was unhypnotizable. He had to face every scene fully awake, and what he faced should not have been legal. Chapter 6. Making Hell. Real. Klimov demanded authenticity. Not realism, not accuracy, authenticity. This meant no fake bullets, no fake explosions, no fake danger. The explosions you see on screen, real, lethal, close enough to kill. The bullets? Real rounds fired meters away. The swamp? Filled with actual parasites. The villagers? Real survivors or descendants of survivors from burned Belarusian villages. They weren't acting. They were reliving ancestral trauma. One scene in particular became legendary. Kravchenko stands in a field, a cow beside him. Bullets rip through the air around them. The boy starts shaking. He clings to Klimov and whispers, "Is there anything else?" Klimov looks at him and simply says, "Go back into the scene." The boy returns, and in that moment, childhood ends forever. This is why Kravchenko didn't act again for 13 years. The film changed him. It aged him. It scarred him, just like it was designed to. Chapter 7. The Psychology of Witnessing. Most war films show battles. Come and See shows memory. The whole film is structured like a PTSD flashback. Distorted sound, ringing ears, long tracking shots, faces staring directly into the camera, no escape, no safety, no distance between viewer and trauma. This wasn't a stylistic choice. It was a psychological one. Klimov wanted the audience to experience what survivors described: the dissociation, the panic, the surreal clarity, the brain refusing to understand what the eyes see. The film is not meant to entertain you. It is meant to injure you. Chapter 8. The Truth. Even Nazis admitted. When the film screened in East Germany, a former Nazi soldier approached Klimov. He was shaking. He said, "Everything you showed is true, but I tried to forget it. Now, when my children see this film, I don't know what to tell them." This one quote explains why the USSR, Germany, and nearly every nation touched by World War II felt uncomfortable with the film. It was not about national pride, not about heroism, not about victory. It was about the chorus, the civilians who suffered and died with no glory. As the poet Joseph Brodsky said, "In a real tragedy, it is not the hero who perishes, it is the chorus." Chapter 9. A Warning. The World Ignored. When the USSR approved Come and See, they thought they were unleashing a patriotic celebration. What they actually unleashed was a cinematic confession. A film too honest for Soviet propaganda, too psychologically intense for mainstream audiences, too real to ever be replicated. Klimov's final message was simple: "I could have shown you something worse." And he was right. What's truly terrifying is not what made it into the film, but all the things he chose not to show. The world called Come and See a masterpiece. Klimov called it my last film. And it was. He never made another. War does not destroy nations. It destroys children. And sometimes, a film is the only memory the survivors have left.